Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. This is our spoiler review of the new Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action adaptation that a lot of people were anticipating. I'm here with RB3. I already posted my non-spoiler thoughts on the channel, but I wanted to do a longer spoiler take on the show, and I brought in another fan of the show, RB3 in the house. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm feeling, feeling a little tired after watching that series. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of gave me some sleepy vibes. I'm not trying to, you know.
Right off the bat, man. No hiding it. Uh, First off, give me your thoughts on and your experience with the Avatar animated show.
I love the Avatar, the original animated show. That was one of my favorite. That was literally my favorite show as a child. Watched it on Nickelodeon. Came out in 2005, 2006. I was right at that age of like 9, 10, where it was like right at the Aang age. You know what I mean? So I really felt like I lived through that character. And then growing up, I didn't see Legend of Korra as it was airing live on television, but I did catch it on. I binged it during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, binged Legend of Korra, fell back in love with the Avatar: Last Airbender mythos. In some ways, I actually love Legend of Korra in some ways a little bit more than Avatar: Last Airbender. Of course, it's not like a perfect series. I feel like the original Last Airbender series is like a perfect three seasons. I believe 3 seasons series that has just a perfectly wrapped told story. Legend of Korra is a little bit messier, a little bit sloppier, but like the gives that much more adult themes. I just appreciate it for that. So when they announced the new live action version of it, of course we saw the M. Night Shyamalan version. I actually never even watched that movie in theaters. Like, I knew it was going to be bad. Like, as a kid, like, I was 2010. I was like in middle school. I even knew like back then it wasn't going to be good. And to this day, I've never seen like 100% of it. Like, I've seen a lot of parts of it, but I just never seen the full thing. So with this one, I was like, okay, they looks like they got it right. They had the creators involved originally. It's going to be nice. Whew, man, it's a little tougher. You know what I mean? I personally love the art form of animation. I know you're going to speak to this as well, but man, it's like, why? What was the point? Like, honestly, what was the point of this? And I will say, there are people involved in this show that I love. The cast was actually really, really good. First of all, like, the cast was good. The cast was really well cast. Aang was, had that bright, joyful, boyish optimism that was great. Katara was really good. Of course, shout out my fellow DKA fraternity sibling, Mary Zhang, or Maria Zhang, playing Suki, episode 2. She was really fun in that episode, and hope to see her more down the line in the series. And I just, it was really a lot. It was some good stuff in there with the effects. Some of the effects didn't look that good, like, especially when it was at nighttime. Like, anytime there was like nighttime photography, it was really whatever. Anyway, I'm rambling on too long. My connection to the OG, I really loved it. This one wasn't really it for me. It wasn't it for me, despite the good cast, despite the great cast.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of, I'm sure you already know this, but just to kind of give more added information to what you were saying, the original creators did leave the Netflix
Yeah.
adaptation eventually. They started on board and then they left due to creative differences, which again, we don't know what those creative differences were. We can speculate, but we actually don't know what they are. And there's like hundreds of YouTube videos of people just speculating as far as what it was. It's interesting because I've been in the Avatar universe fandom for a long, long time. Like, I was on forums. I don't know if you know if you were even around for forums, RB3, but back when forums were like the way of having fandom, where you would just get on forums and talk about it with random people. That was my era, like back in 08, oh 07, oh
We have
08, I
Facebook
believe.
groups. I have Facebook groups. That's what we were doing in my
There
time.
we
Yeah.
go. So for me, it's like I know this fandom really well, and it's interesting to see the conversation around it because I gave my thoughts. My thoughts were kind of disappointment because I really did have high expectations, but I don't feel like it's garbage
Yeah.
or trash or something awful as like the M. Night Shyamalan level or even close to that level. So I do feel like words and nuance matter because the way I spoke in my review, I made it clear that I don't want it to be a toxic hate train as far as hating on everything and hating on the actors and hating on this and that. What I don't feel like that's a good thing to do, and I don't feel like it applies to this show. And yet, there's a lot of people upset that I even gave any kind of negativity to the show because they think it's amazing and so good and made them cry like 10 times. Like I've had people comment and tell me. But I do feel like it's difficult because the Avatar fandom, you know this, RB3. I'm sure you know this. Even
Yeah.
if you're little time in it, it can be borderline like really fun to be a part of and positive, and then it could be borderline like what is happening right now? Like people are wishing death upon me.
Mm.
Like it's way too extreme when it comes to people just talking about this live action show and just talking about the show in general. Like the kind of debates we see on Twitter when it comes to Korra, still like we're in 2024, bro.
That
Like we're still having this the same debate as far as like, is Korra good? I'm like, oh my God, bro. Yes, just watch the show. Um, I just feel like we have to evolve as a fandom and we have to learn to have disagreements and communicate our thoughts on a live action adaptation of a show that we really love. And whether we love it or hate it, there has to be a way for us to communicate our thoughts on it. I want to get to the good RB3. What's something that you really enjoyed from the show?
Like I mentioned before, the cast is really spot on. Aang is great. The little white boy who plays Sokka, he's okay too. Everybody was good. The cinematography during the daytime stuff was like really nice, especially when they were the Earth Kingdom.
Mushroom.
Yeah, even parts in the last two episodes when they were experimenting with colors and saturations and red levels and lighting. I thought that stuff was pretty interesting as well. Even though I think like it's a mostly unoriginal adaptation that follows the OG series like B for B, but switch some things around. I do appreciate how they adapted like the Jet storyline, the Toast, and his father's storyline, and then also the Boomy storyline, all into like episode 3 and 4, all in that time space. I thought that was really nice. Yeah, also the guy who played Zuko, yes, Zuko. He was phenomenal as well. Again, I actually didn't look up the cast members' names.
Dallas Leo.
That was Leo. He was probably the one of the better highlights, and I think he could tell he's a little bit older than the rest of the cast, as Zuko is in the show. So, but he really brought it, and he had a lot to deliver, and he did deliver that. So I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that's what I said in my review. I feel like the cast really did the best with what they were given. They tried to go above and beyond in every scene. They gave a lot of emotion. They gave a lot of heart inside of their scenes and their moments. Obviously, the standout, you already mentioned him, Dallas, was perfect as Zuko. I mean, that's straight out of book one Zuko. Obviously, Zuko, I think a lot of people forget how annoying he was in season one, in book
Mm.
one, where he's supposed to be angry, irrational, all this kind of stuff that makes him Zuko book one. And that's exactly what Dallas was inside this role. Um, I like Guy Wendio as well as Katara. I know she's been getting a lot of negativity, not necessarily for her performance, but for the role of Katara itself, as far as how watered down that character felt inside
No pun
this
intended.
version. Yeah, no pun intended. Versus the original Katara, who's a little bit different from the animated show. But I felt like she did a really good job with what she was given as well. I feel like that's kind of where it stops for me. Oh no, martial arts. I like the martial arts. Dallas killed it in a lot of his roles.
Did you like
So
did you like the kid who played Aang? Did you like him?
I did, but I just felt like there's a difference between I just felt like the writers were a little bit confused as far as what to do with Aang at moments. They kind of strayed at as far as like this is who Aang is, and they kind of forgot about Aang being a kid in the show and having moments of like doubt, regret, fear. Like there's a lot of moments in the show that I felt like Aang is still doing the whole, well, if we have friendship, then we can do it. And I'm just like, Aang would probably cry right now. Aang would
Mm.
probably get mad right now. Like Aang is still a kid. He still has a different range of emotions. And I felt like this version of Aang was a little too like positive for me, too bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. There were a few moments that I really did feel like this is a good moment to remind the audience that Aang is just a kid and he has a lot of fears. He has a lot of tendencies that might seem frustrating to an audience member, like we saw in book one, where I don't know if you remember book one, RB3, but Aang could be a lot at times in book one. And I felt like they didn't want to do that because they didn't want the audience to dislike Aang or find him annoying or find him, like a too much kiddie or bratty. And I'm like, he is a kid though.
Yeah, and I think that's my number one thing. It's like you could definitely tell they just stripped away all complexity out of all of it, like whatsoever. I know there was that controversy before the show came out, like they took out a lot of Zuko's or not Zuko, but Sokka's like misogyny and stuff like that. And then on the surface, that does look like a minor thing, like, when you're reading about it, but in the context of the show, it does feel like something's missing from all of these dynamics. Like, it feels like he only has a one-track mind of like pleasing his father. Katara only has a one-track mind of like, trying to learn water bending a little bit and maybe get over her mom. And then it's like, yeah, in the original show there was a lot more moments that showed you the complexity of the characters. Even for an animated show to be more complex than the live action version is it's a little bit pathetic. So it's like that's a little bit of why, like, even though it's good and even though it looks good for the most part and the cast is good, there's just a huge burning part of me that's like, why even do this? Like, why even make a show in live action? Like, to me, I think about there are a couple of amazing adaptations from TV, from animation to live action. I think Peach Dragon from Disney was really good. There are some really good ones, but this really gives me like Lion King vibes, the 2019 Lion King, where it literally just felt like people were kind of sleepwalking. This one didn't feel like they were sleepwalking. This one felt like they actually were trying to be something good, but it just felt like they were more focused on high intensity action and, dramatics instead of getting to the humor and stuff. And also, the show felt incredibly. This is my last like complaint. I'm chilling, but the pacing is it's a very weird contradiction for me in how the pacing is, because on one side it's very slow moving, like as opposed to the cartoon is very animation is very lively, very fun, very like quick witted, and this show is very like longer and drawn out. Like they're like pacing it as if it's like a live action show. And it's like, I don't know about that. I kind of wanted it to be quicker paced, but at the same time, it felt like they rushed over so much too. You know what I mean? I felt like they rushed over a tremendous amount. So it's like, I wanted to be faster, but I also wanted them to like do more things. I don't know how you really handle that. The only directors who I feel like can kind of balance the live action and animation kind of tones in and of themselves is like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, right? Like how you see their animated films and versus their live action films. Their live action films are very quick paced, like fast moving, very over the top and colorful. I just kind of wanted this movie to feel like that, or this show to feel like that, because I felt like that's what the show kind of gave, that whimsy and that wonder of animation. So that's all I got.
Wonder of animation and wonder of fantasy world building, right? That's part of the charm of Avatar, is that it is a different world. It's not the same world we're used to living in. I felt like they kind of had opportunities where they should have done a little bit more world building if they wanted to do that in live action. And I felt like that could have been done a lot better in the show. I want to finish up the cast real quick, giving them some props. I want to give props to the girls who play Ty Lee and May. I know they're there briefly, but I feel like they could do a lot more. I want to give props to Lizzie Yu, who plays Azula. I felt like she, again, did the best with what she had, along with Iroh, the actor who plays
Iroh's
Iroh,
good. Yeah.
and Ozai as well, Daniel Day Kim, who plays Ozai. Again, the cast is there with a lot of heart. Like you could see the well-intentioned, heartfelt performance that they're giving beyond kind of the plainness of the script,
The
which is,
dialogue.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's tough dialogue, and they're still like giving it their heart and giving it their best.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, and I will always appreciate that from actors. And I feel like that's probably where my positive stops, is like some cool martial arts scenes from Zuko mainly, and then the actors just giving their heart in a lot of moments. But to me, RB3, what really didn't work was the filmmaking, in fact, just in general. I felt like the direction, personally, for me, was just off, like just really, really off. Again, when it comes to the editing, the lingering on certain shots, the shot selections itself. Like there's shots in episode 4 where I'm just like, what is this shot? What are you doing to poor Aang? Like the lens they were using. I was like, what is this lens on his face right now?
Yeah,
And
I
just
know
the
what you're talking about.
decisions as far as like camera setup 1, camera setup 2, you know, face reaction shot. There was nothing energetic, passionate, inspired. Just nothing to make me feel like, oh my God, this camera move feels like I'm in an animated show. Like it feels like it has passion and energy and intention. Like there was no intention. It felt like this was from the show. So we're gonna have them talking. I don't know. That was the
No,
biggest thing for me, where I was like,
that
this is what's killing the show.
you nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed that. And then it's so funny because like, I was a little bored watching this triangle lie, so I started checking TikTok while it was scrolling, and then I go to your TikTok review of it just pops up on the timeline, and then you said something about the camera being so docile and like what was it?
Lethargic.
Lethargic, yo, docile, lethargic, and that made me laugh because you said that, and right as you said that, I panned up. I just see like this most like lazy, like kind of pushing shot that's happening on Aang, like as he's about to go into the Avatar state. I'm like, oh no, like he got it so right. Like this is so because I feel like in animation, like fast, it's just again fast movement, fast energy. Like it's just you need that certain kind of hype. I don't know. Like there's just a certain kind of energy that you feel in animation that it just fills your eye more with spectacle. So you know you just go for it. And that's not to say don't over visual effects this show to death. Like you don't have to do that. But don't linger, like you said, they linger on things for so long. The camera moves so slowly. And it's like a 50-minute show. And it's like the original show is a nice little 23-minute adventure, 21 minutes after the opening credits, really. So it's a nice little, basically like a little short film every episode. But with this one, it's like, dog, it just goes on for so long through these like meticulous stories, and then it does end with a pretty good fight scene. You know, it's the Netflix formula too. That's also what kind of makes me upset about it. It's like a very Netflixy kind of feeling show. You know what I mean? There's even times they like pay homage to classics. You know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and all these martial arts classics. But then it's like that just feels uninspired too, and that's from the dude who loves Netflix. Like Closure from Intergalactic, mad Netflix films that I love. You know what I mean? Like Stranger Things. They want this to be the new Stranger Things, and that's what's kind of making me the most upset about it, because you got to earn it. You got to earn it. You got to earn it through good filmmaking. Stranger Things earned it through good filmmaking. I didn't even love season 1 of Stranger Things. I might end up loving this show subsequently too, but they at least had a voice.
Yeah, it's a bummer because I agree. I just feel like they really just felt like, all right, all we have to do is like give some moments from the animated original and people are going to love it. That's it. Like as long as we copy the original exactly in a few scenes, that's all we have to do to like make a good show. And I felt like that's not how you make a good show though. Like you still have to make a good show on its own, having never seen the original or have no original basis to base it off. You have to make it stand on its own, and you can't just make a fan film, um, which I think is cool. Fan films are fun, but it's the most expensive fan film ever. And I don't feel like that works because, again, you can't hide the stiltedness, the lifelessness, the kind of like spark that's missing inside a show. You just can't hide that, especially when there's kids, when there's uh, superpowers and there's cool stuff supposedly happening on screen, and yet there's no spark coming out of it and no magic coming out of it. And again, this isn't to compare it one by one to the original. I see a lot of people saying you can't compare it to the original. I'm not. I'm just saying on its own compared to other fantasy shows, if we want to do that. Like even if you want to say, Wheel of Time, I guess, I don't know, it's just to throw one out there that no one's really seen, or Rings of Power, or anything that's fantasy show. You just have to establish a way for people to say, I like this character, I like their power set, and I like their character type.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, there you go. There has to be a way for people to latch onto it and feel like, oh, this is cool, this is different, I feel it. And there's not a moment, maybe two moments in this entire series that I felt that. And I feel like that's what you need when you have kids and you have a fantasy world. Again, I feel like people forget this is a fantasy show. Make it a fantasy show and not make it super dry and super wooden and super like bitter. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just felt like you needed a lot.
I feel like I barely saw Appa this whole series. Like I feel like
The
we
few
barely.
times we did worked, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, yeah, like, and then we did. I loved the parts where we saw Appa, but it was like,
Yeah.
come on, it's like the original show. They're like on his back for like 30% of the episode at least,
Yeah.
and then like Momu, like they introduced him all kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like, let me stop hating. I don't want to hate. It was good. This is like a good like 6 out of 10 show, but
you saw my tweets over the weekend when it comes to animation. You said it before we started. I feel like we have to have that conversation. You already mentioned it, but I feel like we should dive deeper. What is the purpose of this? I really do want to know. And I feel like right now, if I sit in a Netflix board meeting in this very moment, they're going to be laughing in my face. Like they're probably laughing at me. They're like, bro, we got hundreds of millions of viewers,
Yeah.
whatever. That's
Yeah.
probably true.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Are we going to keep this cycle though of like making a slightly above average show, maybe average? I would say it's average. I would say 5 out of 10 probably.
Mm.
It, and then say, but hundreds of people tuned in or millions of people tuned in, so it doesn't matter. I feel like there should still be some attention and care when it comes to quality, because we can't just keep doing this again. Or can we, RB3? Are we done? Are we just screwed?
I don't know.
Does animation not matter?
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of hoping. I'm really hoping that Barry Jenkins delivers with Lion King 2 or the Mufasa. Like that's my last redeeming hope for like an animated to live action. Cruella DeVille was a great like adaptation. That's what I'm saying. I wanted an adaptation. Like I didn't want an exact beat for beat remake, and it wasn't an exact beat for beat remake. To be fair, it wasn't that. But I just wanted something a little bit different. I want them to dive, like you said, maybe a little bit more into the world, maybe a little bit more into the politics, or maybe into a little bit more of them as characters. But it just literally felt like, oh, let's take all the key moments that people will recognize from the OG series, like from book one, kind of splatter them all into here and kind of make the pacing, feel a little bit disjarred, but people won't care because they're binging it and looking at their phones and stuff. Like you said, it's like the Netflix executives are looking at this like, hey, this works. Actually, this to say too, like a lot of people do like it. Like I watched the first episode with Cade, shout out Cade. Cade was really, really digging it. Parker, Cade's brother, wasn't really feeling it as much. The one thing too, like Aang was flying, wasn't he? Why was Aang flying? Like, was that like a version of his like airbending kind of situation? Because obviously he's a here and Legend of Korra, like he had to be like God tier to really start flying. Anyway, all right, let me stop. I'm not too deep into the lore, to really go into that argument. But it's just like things felt weird. It just felt weird. It felt like the power sets didn't have any upgrade system to it. Like it just felt like there wasn't a backbone for lore, a backbone for like levels up and like mythology and world building and character complexity. Like it just felt like, yeah, we have a show, like I don't know.
I guess my thing is when it comes to animation, I saw someone say, and I heard a lot of people say, I did a roundtable discussion about Avatar 2 weeks ago, and from a lot of fans who are like lifelong fans or just brand new fans, and a lot of them said, as long as people watch the show and can tune into the original, I feel like at this point, I've said that argument before. I've used that before, that same argument. People watch this version and then we'll want to watch the original. I feel like at this point, if you haven't seen the original, you probably never will, because I just don't feel like a live action. If you're so obsessed with live action that it has to be live action, then you're probably not going to want to watch an animated show, right? I just feel like everything you can get out of a live action Avatar show, you can get that, but much better inside the animated show. Like there's no elevation of material, is what I said in my review, where elevation of the material doesn't mean it's better than the original show. It just means you add some stuff, add some scenes between characters that we didn't know about, add some moments with Katara or with Aang or with Sokka, like add some stuff in there that makes you feel like this is different, and I can get this out of the show that I probably wouldn't be able to get in the animated show because they're doing the fun animation type stuff. And yet I don't feel like that's the case with this show. I'm just starting to question the purpose of live action adaptations anyway, where I do feel like animation can stand on its own inside any kind of medium right now, at least
Mm-hmm.
from what I feel. So I don't know. Maybe this is me being frustrated with people not respecting animation to a point now where they say, I will rather watch a much, much subpar live action version than ever watch the original show.
Yeah.
Really? I don't know. This is me being, I saw some people tweeting about it and I'm just like, how is that
Yeah,
possible?
again, I hate to keep bringing Disney into it, but I mean, listen, it worked with Lion King, it worked with Beauty and the Beast,
It's
multiple
gonna keep
Disney
working. Do you feel like it's gonna keep working?
people. I mean, people show up for it. I don't get
Yeah.
it. I personally don't get it. I don't like it. I don't get it. There's even shows like again, I'm bringing up a bunch of random stuff now, but even like Ted on Peacock, like that show very much feels like a live action Family Guy, even though I know it's based on Ted, which is already live action, but it feels like Family Guy. But even that doesn't even work for me. Like I just feel like there's a certain rhythm and certain cadence and pace that like is just so much funnier and more fluid in animation. And if you want to bring that writing into live action, like it just doesn't work. Like I think the problem with the dialogue is that with cartoons, it's okay to be a little bit more direct, and it's okay to be a little bit more, the dialogue to be a little bit like dulled down a little bit because like you're reading it from a cartoon character's mouth, like it doesn't seem like it's human. But when it's coming out of a human mouth with human eyes and human emotions, like you have to elevate that dialogue. And it's the same thing, it's like Hayden Christensen and the Star Wars prequels movies, you know what I mean? Like and all the cast, Natalie Portman, they put their heart into doing that trash George Lucas dialogue. The Avatar dialogue wasn't necessarily trash, but it wasn't good. And I think the bad dialogue really held back the actors who were putting the best foot forward in this series. So, yeah, I really there was so much to appreciate, and it's a very okay watchable show. I'm not mad at it. People watching, they tell me they like it. I'm going to be like, hey, good for you. I'm glad Mary Zhang, she had a great part in it. Yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't for me.
It's never to take away from anyone's enjoyment of anything. I feel like you can enjoy what you want. For me, it's more like I want to find the purpose of adapting these shows, and I want to find it to be something that's even slightly rewarding personally for me. But again, if you enjoyed the show, more power to you. I feel like it's definitely not bad at all. It's not a bad show. I just feel like, again, when it comes to the material you're trying to adapt, at least try to add something a little bit different, or try to add something that can add some energy or spark to the show that really wasn't there. So that's my thought process. But I also feel like it really comes to the conversation as far as if these live action adaptations are going to keep happening, how can we do them better? And how can we get people to actually tune into animated properties and animated shows? Because I feel like at this point you're spending so much money on this show that that money could be going elsewhere when it comes to the type of shows we get.
Yeah, or
I don't
Netflix
know.
doesn't have to keep jacking up prices. Like, is this what they're jacking up the prices for? Like
Probably.
to make more baloney like this? Like, and then I would really like. I know they're doing the new Avatar animated series and the new
Yeah.
animated movie and all that stuff is gonna come out on Paramount Plus. Netflix, buy the rights to those things. Like, get the rights to that because the animated show and Legend of Korra are massively, massively popular on the Netflix platform. Like, they should just capitalize off that hype instead of like spending all this money on this live action, nonsense. And again, I'm wrong. Clearly I'm wrong because people are gonna watch this show. People watch those Disney movies, but I don't get it. I don't like it. I would prefer to see the animation take the priority because there's so much beautiful animation. There's so much beautiful nuances that are just in that original series and character moments that are just in that original series that they just were not able to capture here for whatever reason, for budgetary, for the fact that they only had 8 episodes, as opposed to the OG series was what, like 20 for a season or something like that. So it's like, it's just tough. It's tough to lock all that story into a shorter time period, but they tried.
As an anime fan, you know my thoughts, man. I feel like people just don't give animation a chance. Not, anime is
Mm.
like people don't understand like 45-year-old, 48-year-olds, people of all ages leave work and go prime time TV to watch Attack on Titan or Jujutsu Kaisen. Like animation is should be respected the same way we drop everything we're doing and watch an episode of Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or The Sopranos. Like people refuse to put animation in that same level, and I it frustrates me to be honest because I feel like it is at that same level, same if not higher quality storytelling. I've talked about this with on this channel a million times with Rafael, with a bunch of people talking about obviously Attack on Titan, which it's the kind of show that you watch it and you're just like, "No, this is wild. I've never seen anything like it." And you can only get it in animation. And just because you think like it's animation, I can't get anything out of it that's not kiddie or that's not watered down, you'd be surprised. And I feel like people should just try and give animation not just a chance, but just to start to question their own biases and start to say, wait a minute, why is this secondary? Why can't I say my favorite show of the year is an animated show? Why? Why does it have to be The Bear? Or no offense to The Bear, but like, why does it have to be Succession, The Bear? I
Mm-hmm.
can't put an animation in there because it's considered, well, that's not prestige TV. Why
Mm-hmm.
not? Why is it not prestige TV if it's still prestige storytelling and prestige filmmaking? That's the kind of questions I really want people to ask themselves. I guess the only thing RB3 that we have is that I guess the argument is the actors, right? That's why you do it. And if you're going to make that argument, it's hard for me to fight you on it. You already mentioned Maria, but also Guy Wendio, Dallas, the kid who plays Aang, Gordon, I believe his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring Asian talent, hiring native talent, is that important? Do you feel like that's a good argument to make? Like, yeah, if representation matters that much, then you might as well give it a shot and make this show with the proper representation.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like that's probably a benefit. You know what I mean? I don't think that's what Netflix and that's their motivation for making it. That's honestly
It's
just
not.
is money, greed. That's why they want to make it. But I think that is a good argument for like, yeah, that's the benefits of it. That's why I'm excited to see like, Lilo and Stitch is gonna have a real little Hawaiian girl in there. You know what I mean? Like Moana, the live action version, they really putting that together. So I do like seeing, that kind of stuff. I want to see what they're eventually going to do with a live action Princess and the Frog. I think that would be great for little girls. I like that they even, switched up Little Mermaid
Yeah.
for Halle Bailey. I think that is a phenomenal move. So things like that is like, those are the benefits. But it's like, again, it's like when you watch the movies, it's like, oh, this is just like not the greatest. But it's not, that's not to hate on the people who again who like that stuff. There's definitely an audience. There's a strong audience of people who are like, for some reason they just don't like cartoons or just think that's a silly medium or not an inferior medium. I don't know why. I wish we could, like you said, I wish we could go to the mountaintops and preach that. There are filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro out there who've been preaching that. There are obviously the filmmakers, large animation community who are championing it. But even on the TV level, like TV animators are in a whole different, TV animation writers are in a whole different division
Category.
than the WGA. They're in
Yeah.
TAG. They're in a whole different union. So like they don't even get paid. They get paid significantly less in TV animation than they do like in regular writing for television shows. So it's like things like that. It's like it's kind of tough to even we have to get the studios, we have to get the people in charge to kind of start showing audiences that this is a priority for people. Like, I don't know why. In some ways, animation is the most cinematic art way of cinema. You know what I mean? It's the most cinematic form of cinema because it's the most unique. Like, you can't replicate, with actual live action, that's a combination of photography, all these other things. But with animation, it's literally something that comes purely in the film form, like purely in film. So it's something that I really do. I wish people would love animation as much as we do, but they should. And I do think even movies like Across the Spider-Verse getting snubbed this year, and it's crazy because the OG animated series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, it won multiple Emmys when it came out. I think it won Emmys for all 3 seasons. for like best animated programming that it came out. So the original series is also critically acclaimed and beloved as well. But I just wish that they saw the qualities of the animated show were like the nuances, the character stuff, and not just the flashy things we could do with visual effects and CGI and kind of flashy camera work, but also like you said, it's kind of more lethargic than anything. So
Yeah, it's tough, and I know I feel like we're preaching to the choir right now. I feel like a lot of people watching are already fans of the show and really enjoy it. But I do want to point out that there is a huge portion, and I maybe because we know them, RB3, that will not watch the original show. Before we went on air, we talked about a specific person on a red carpet who didn't even know what the show was about. Those kind of people is what I'm talking about. The people who watch Oscar screeners and who will sit down and watch Oppenheimer 12 times and Killers of the Flower Moon, but refuse to watch, this kind of show because they think it's beneath them somehow. Those kind of people, the people who get Oscar screeners, and who are like media people and are really involved in that type of like awards attention type stuff, those guys will rather die than watch this kind of show. And that to me is like the kind of stuff that the kind of snobbery and attitude that kind of bugs me, that kind of results inside of making a live action version of the show. And again, all props to the actors. I really do feel like I'm excited for them. I'm happy for them. If they do get more roles based off this, then it was worth it in my opinion. Hopefully they do, because Hollywood is going to Hollywood and they're still going to refuse to hire any person of color for anything
mm-hmm.
besides this type of project. So I mean, I was thinking about Wakanda Forever today. A lot of the Mexican actors that came out of that. I was thinking about Mabel, who played Namora.
Mm,
What happened to her? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
mm-hmm.
they make it an effort and then they forget about you. They kind of leave you to the side. So hopefully that's not what happens to these actors. I really hope they get an opportunity and a chance. And again, if that's what they want, because they are so young. But at the same time, I always ask myself now, where before maybe back in the day, I wouldn't ask myself, what is the purpose of this? I would just be like, who cares? It's live action. It's cool. Like a lot of fans of anime have always wanted to see what it would look like to see a live action, Dragon Ball or a live action Attack on Titan. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, if this is what we're gonna get, maybe not. I'm good. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, and that's funny for me as a filmmaker. I'm kind of like I kind of want to challenge that. Like I do think there is a good way to make a animation to live action. I think there is. Like I think it's just to me it's just the pacing of it. It's just like wasn't just any life or joy in this show. It just moves so slow. Like I cannot over exaggerate how like slow and dry. Like obviously people like slow and dry is good for shows like Game of Thrones or like some with complexity and weight. But when it's like third grade level dialogue, then it's like I'm just watching paint dry essentially. So that's what makes it the most painful. If you're gonna be like still, for one, it just needs. I think for one, good writing is the number one thing. Knowing that the dialogue that works in animation just doesn't work in live action. Like you need to add more complexity, more nuance, more subtext to the dialogue. And then I think just also just liveliness in both the camera movements and the editing. That the show didn't have any of that. So
Yeah,
that's
liveliness is important. It's just inspiration. Just be inspired. Be bold with the camera decisions you make. I really do feel like that matters more and more when it comes to these type of properties.
when they had to do the recreate the like cabbage line, which I like that they got the original guy
Yeah.
to do that. But it was like so they had to like the camera like come all the way down from here and like kind of like come down from overhead. I'm like they tried something there, but even that just didn't even feel like it just didn't even feel like good. They felt that they were like, oh, we know this is the meme. Let's like make this the meme, but like try to go a little over the top with it. But it's just still didn't. I don't know. I don't know. I gotta stop nitpicking. Let me stop nitpicking. Like,
Yeah, there was a few stuff that we haven't gotten into when it comes to the actual show. The spirit world was a little off to me. I didn't like that Wang Shi-ta was chilling on the sidewalk.
yeah.
Um, I was like, it makes no sense. This is like a powerful spirit who loves knowledge and who lives in his library. Why would he be chilling on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
That kind of was kind of odd to me. I haven't mentioned Amber Mid Thunders. I thought she was awesome. I thought she was great. But that wig, bro, that wig was like spitting. That wig was like, it's about me, bro. I'm here to work, 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 work. It was like, yo, this wig is like doing overtime right now, bro. They were doing
Uh,
like the dead drop. They were voguing. That thing was like popping, bro.
yo, that's funny. Yeah,
Did you notice
nah.
that wig?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little. I didn't think about that. See, I got run that. I run that part
Oh,
back.
that wig was that thing was like I thought it was gonna come to life and start dancing, bro. That thing was alive.
I gotta run that
It
back. I
looked
got.
so it looked like a different part of her body. Like it wasn't even attached to her head. Um, but I thought she was great. I thought she was great. And props to her and props to her hiring her because she's obviously we know her from Prey and from other projects. But that's the kind of casting that I feel like is really cool and that can really matter to a lot of people. Um, and I felt like she was great in her small role as being just a kind-hearted Yue, um, which we know her to be. So props to that because I really do feel like that worked for sure. RB3, I've asked myself this question. Let me ask you, if you were attached to a beloved animated property and someone said, "Hey, can you help me make it?" Whether you're an AP, whether you're a script supervisor, like a tiny role, would you want to be a part of a live action uh, adaptation of a beloved animated property, as far as like a Hollywood movie or a TV show? Would you still say yes? Would you still want to be a part of it because you feel like you could influence it somehow, even if you have a small role?
Yeah, it will still be Dragon Ball Z for me. I mean, I still feel like, regardless of seeing this and regardless of seeing all the films, I still feel like someone with a strong vision, me, or somebody else, but me, ideally, or maybe even Denis Villeneuve. Like, it got to be somebody who takes it real seriously. Like, it got to be. It can't be.
You picked
some
up the
like,
most wanted director right now.
well, I mean, I'm just what I'm saying. Like, you just need like the way he committed to Dune was like,
Yeah.
yo, I live Dune. I'm through Dune
Yeah.
in and out. Like, this is my lifetime goal is to do Dune. You need somebody like that to do the movie who's been thinking about it their whole life. And yeah, I think like that's what I mean. I feel like in that like rare scenario, I feel like that could work. I also feel like I personally think Kuroko's basketball could be fun. But just as a basketball fan, I think that could just be a fun like little live action. But that's more of like a
Smaller scale.
Yeah, smaller scale. That's more like smaller scale. And for something like for this kind of stuff, I really don't think so. Even when SpongeBob, like the SpongeBob movie, like had those little segments when they like went to the real world and they're like in live action. I'm like, yo, this sucks. This sucks. Get this off the screen. Like, this is terrible. So yeah, none of it. No more of it. I just want to see again. I would personally feel like I could put my foot into a Dragon Ball Z, live action, or somebody who really, really cares about it and just won't do the thing beat for beat. Like if they really care about it, then go for it. But it gotta be somebody who's really invested.
It's tough. It's always tough to do some sort of anime adaptation. I really do feel like, and I know this doesn't count as anime, but I think it's anime enough for me when it comes to American version of anime, if you want to say that. But I feel like it's tough to do anime because anime has so much charisma and spark and power behind it. Obviously, if you see the back of my background, you'll see obviously Dragon Ball Z, you'll see Gundam. Imagine a live action Gundam, right?
That could be
People can
cool.
imagine this type of stuff. I think they're making that, right? Were they making
I
that?
think so.
I don't know. I hope they're not making it. But that's the kind of stuff and ideas that people can have, and it sounds cool in your head, and then you start to think about it, and you're like, "Wow, this is difficult." That's why for me, anytime people ask me what's a good anime adaptation, I'll say The Matrix. The Matrix is it's a spin-off. It's a version of a Ghost in the Shell type story, but it's very anime, extremely anime. If you watch that movie or Inception.
Yes.
That to me is like
Right.
anime inspiration. That's an anime inspired type story that people forgot about. But to me, it's like I still think to this day, RB3, if they said we're making Attack on Titan, whether you like it or not, if I was in that room with Hollywood making Attack on Titan, with all the studios or whatever studio is doing it, I would tell them dead in the eye, don't do this.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Attack on Titan's already good on its own. But at the same time, if they said we're doing it no matter what, I'd be like, please hire me. I'm the
Yeah.
only one who can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the meme from the scene from Endgame where he's like, it's like I was created for it. Hulk says that at the end. He's
Yeah.
like, somehow I was created for this. And that's me for Attack on Titan
Yeah.
adaptation. Like I have to be in the room to do it. No one
Yeah.
else can do it.
Somebody
To snap my fingers.
Right, somebody got to take care of it. Got to look over it. I do look forward to Dustin Daniel Cretton's version of Naruto. I think that could be cool. You know, he's a great filmmaker.
I get nervous. I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. But Shang-Chi was fun though. Shang-Chi was fun.
He's a great director. I don't think it'll be his fault. I just feel like the studio is just gonna go in there, just bunch it up with their hands.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Studio interference is like
Yeah.
you can't let the studio get too over. Honestly, I feel like that's why there hasn't been like a really good American Godzilla movie too. You know what I mean? Like they're studio executives find one interpretation of the OG Japanese movies, and then American filmmakers get another interpretation of it, and there's always that clash, and it just never hits. Whereas meanwhile, in Japan, you get movies like Godzilla -1 or Shin Godzilla came out in 2016 that are really phenomenal, but are also organic and culturally relevant to the actual cultures that it's trying to represent, rather than being like an American washed down, watered down version like made for capitalism. So it's just like, I want to see if a director comes out and is like, if Michael B. Jordan comes out and is like, I've been watching Dragon Ball Z my whole life. This is it. Like, I've been training for this movie. Creed 3 was training ground. I'm gonna do another small movie. Ryan Coogler's gonna write it. Spielberg's gonna produce it. Like, if they come out and he's like really getting it hyped about it, then I'll be like, okay, like I could see this. You know what I mean? Like, but it just gotta be the right director, the right kind of passion level, and somebody who's been living with it for their whole life and just ready to make it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, guys, we appreciate the show. We appreciate the actors who were a part of the show. We know it could have been better. There could have been something more in there. So maybe those were why our thoughts were slightly more on the disappointed side of this. But again, if you enjoyed it, props to you. Much love. But anyways, RB3, any final thoughts?
Nah, man. Hopefully people watch the original animated version.
Watch the original.
I hope that's what inspires people. Maybe they go from this version and see what they missed out in the animated version.
And watch Korra too, if you haven't seen Korra.
Yes.
Watch both if you haven't seen him. Please do. Because again, this is what inspired my outrage over the weekend, where people were like, I'm gonna watch this and I'm not gonna watch the original. I'm just like, why?
You know what? That's also probably another purpose of why they make these live action versions too, is to increase streams and increase watch time for the original series, because fans go back and rewatch the OG series. New fans might come in and watch it, and that I do appreciate. Like, more people, since the live action Lion King came out, more people watch the OG Lion King because of it. Things like that. I do appreciate that it's like an expanded story for people, and I really do hope that it inspires more animated storytelling, just original animated storytelling. Like, I love that Netflix had that Nomi feature that came out and is nominated for the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. I'm glad they have that. I'm glad they have still been trying to do animation, but you don't have to do the cheap live action thing. Stay away from it.
Yeah, I don't want to see, just the final thought, I don't want to see My Hero Academia. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't want to see that live action. That is made for anime. Don't touch it. Live action. I don't know if you've seen My Hero RB3, but
yes,
that is not something that should be live action.
That's
at
funny.
all.
What about One Punch Man?
No, please don't do that.
And one more. Invincible. They've been talking about doing that one live action.
No.
No. That wouldn't just be The Boys? You don't think that would just be The Boys?
That's exactly what you read my mind. I was like, it'd just be another like edgelord type show or type movie, and I don't know. I'm good. I'll stick with the Invincible that I have, which is fine. Anyways, guys, those were our thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender, spoiler thoughts, plus our thoughts on the entire industry in general. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments down below. You can follow me at Squad Leader Ace RB3.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3.
Anyways, guys, for the First Cut crew, we're going to be peacing out, so deuces.
It's either me or you. It's either me or you. You do the